One thing we'll be watching for today is all the leadership candidates declared and potential will be on the stage here in the main hall later this afternoon to talk about their vision for the party, discussions around that. And one of them will be a man who's generated a lot of controversy within the Conservative Party ranks. Television personality, entrepreneur, you know him, you've seen him, Kevin O'Leary, and he's with me now. Mr. O'Leary, good to see you.
Great to be here, thank you.
What are you doing here?
You know, I'm a very concerned Canadian, particularly since we've seen the mandate come in with the Liberals. I recently became a member of the Conservative Party in the last 48 hours. I have every right to be
here.
here.
Just now?
Just now.
Oh, okay.
I had no mandate to be here without being a member, so I'm a member now. I'm a shareholder in the Conservative Party, a concerned shareholder. And I feel as a Canadian taxpayer and resident that we have a very broken model in this country, particularly around being competitive and how much money we waste. And frankly, I'm pissed off and I want to do something about it. This is a good place to start.
Okay. Do you feel you're welcome here?
Absolutely. I feel warmth and energy everywhere I walk.
What's your message? You're going to be on the stage this
Absolutely.
afternoon. Okay. I mean, for some people, that's kind of a curious thing. For a guy who has no history with the Conservative Party and now takes out a membership 48 hours.
That's a huge benefit.
Okay. So to be part of the conversation in the group of people who've toiled for a long time in this party, what's your message to those people who say, look, Kevin O'Leary, Johnny come lately, you have no reason to be here?
Here's my message. Forget about the past. You just lost. That policy doesn't work. That history doesn't work. That message didn't work. This whole party has to reconstitute itself and get in sync with the voting constituency if it ever wants to have a control mandate again, a government that actually can set forward new policy. And you know, the way I look at it is, you know right now that this party has to reinvent itself. My strategy here is to suggest a way to do that. Now look, maybe people don't agree with me. I don't care. I think having the dialogue is what matters. I'm interested in one thing and one thing only, changing the financial and fiscal policy of this country. It's broken. It's incompetent. It's stupid. It's almost physically criminal in some cases. I can't stand seeing my money pissed away. And that's exactly what's happening. And I'm going to bring that message forward saying I'm going to move in ways to change that.
Give me an idea of what you're going to say.
Let me give you a very simple example of many that I'm going to try and talk about today. Let's talk about a very important industry in our country, telecommunications and broadcasting. Huge employer, very high net worth jobs. We have an agency called the CRTC that doesn't understand the industry in the context of being competitive anymore. And here's an example. I was in San Francisco just a few months ago and got called up by an American network to sit on their stage and simply answer a question. They said to me, is it true this morning the CRTC ruled that the broadcaster that paid millions of dollars for the Super Bowl has to actually allow the American ads to come into Canada and can't replace them with Canadian business ads? I first of all thought, what a stupid idea that is, and that can't be true. So I quickly checked before I went on the air, and sure enough, that is a fact. You would have to be a moron to put that policy in place. You just hurt every Canadian business that has to compete and allow their American competitors to advertise for free to the Canadian customer that they can't even get to. I don't like that. I want to fix that. That's stupid.
So
that's just one example. You want more? I've got plenty more. Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah, we have limited time. Okay, so is there anything in the model that's worth keeping, or is it blow it all up?
No. Canada.
I think that's what because some people listen to Kevin O'Leary. That's what worries them. What does Kevin O'Leary want to do to the country?
I want this party to be an inclusive party. There's no wall in this country. I'm half Lebanese. I'm half Irish. I was born in Montreal, Canada, the greatest city on earth, in the greatest province in Canada. You know, we're 20% something of the population. We're 60% of the culture and personality. I love my province. The point is, we need to make this party one that endorses a really broad mandate for everybody that wants to be a Canadian, that makes them uniquely Canadian. But it doesn't mean we have to have inept fiscal policy. The way this should work is you can't out-Kumbaya Trudeau. You can't out-liberal him.
Right.
You can't out-punch him in a bag or do more sit-ups or selfies. But his economic policy is going to fail miserably.
Okay, so people listen to that, and some people will say, look, what's running in this guy's veins? Like, is there blood there? Is it ice water? Like, is money the only thing? Is there...
No, I don't need more money.
What about compassion? Look, what about people who need a hand up or some help?
Of course. The best thing we can do in this country to help every Canadian is get them a job. When you hear a politician's lips move, ask yourself when they're finished talking, did they create one incremental job in this country? Most of the time, the answer is no. They have wasted your time and theirs. Because in this country, we have zero economic growth, and it's a result of a whole series of events, some external to us, but a lot of it to do with our ineptness, incompetence, and stupidity in managing our financial system. And that's the problem I've got. I'm a proud Canadian. I don't know why we have to be so uncompetitive, and I'm a taxpayer, and I'm very pissed off.
So what about, for instance, what about fiscal obligations governments have? Where do you stand on, because I haven't heard you talk about this, where do you stand on the obligations of a federal government, for instance, to fund First Nations in this country?
I'd like to revisit that deal because I feel they don't have a fair one. I believe that every Canadian is equivalent. Every Canadian has the same vote. The issue of land rights perplexes me. Why can't anybody in First Nations own land? That makes no sense to me at all. That's unfair to a couple. They get married, they should be able to buy land and put a house on it. Every other Canadian can. Why can't they? A question I have. I'd like to get an answer to that. What is the answer to that? Do you know?
Not for me.
Okay, that's my point. I want to ask the Canadian people what they think about that. I have a different way of looking at the world. If you become a politician and you become a fiduciary of the taxpayer's dollar, you're employed by them. You have an obligation to tell them the truth and provide performance. We don't do that in this country. We let politicians waste our money, totally opaque and untransparent policies. I don't know what my money's doing. I can't get any answers out of it. I want to change all that.
How do you feel about consensus?
Consensus? Let me give you an example of how I think that would be very, very useful. Let's take the debate this country is raging on pipelines in right now. You've got the mayor of Montreal with one opinion. You've got provincial leaders with others. You've got the federal government trying to push through a mandate. You've got poor Rachel Notley totally confused like a deer with headlights and the economy streaming down and running her over. Let's ask the Canadian people what they want to do. Let's put a referendum out, a very simple question. Do you want to build pipelines to the east and west coast of this country? Yes or no? If 51% want to do it, we now have a moral mandate. We don't have to listen to squabbling politicians anymore, and we drive the process through. Everybody has a vote. Every single Canadian has a right to decide. If it's 51% against it, you and I don't have to talk about it anymore. It's over.
I mean, if there's people who wonder about and are concerned about Kevin O'Leary's potential candidacy, and by the way, when are we going to hear whether you're in or not? I guess it's a big step that you've bought a membership in the last 48 hours.
I could barely afford it. I'm being taxed in Ontario. I'm very lucky to have a little extra cash around that I can afford that. You know, I look at it this way. There's no strategic reason to declare now. We're way early in this. I have a full year to do this. And why would I declare now? Why would any of my competitors do the same? I don't understand why. What's the point?
Right.
By the way, this is way too early in the political process. I don't know why we're even here. This is way too early. We should be doing this in January sometime.
But, I mean, it seems, and I've talked to a lot of the candidates. There are 3 declared ones.
Yeah.
And you're very active in putting out sort of points of views and policies.
And I'm proud to do it.
Yeah. So I guess that makes me wonder what would cause you not to enter the race then. If you keep showing up at conventions and talking to conservative groups and sounding like you're in, when are you in?
I'm keeping my options open. I have many paths to getting what I want done. I want to have some say in fiscal and economic policy in this country. That doesn't necessarily mean I have to be prime minister. I could take my supporters that believe in the way I want to run this country and endorse another candidate if I wish.
Or start an independent party.
I would do that, but I frankly think I'm in sync with the soul of this party because I believe in what Harper did in lowering taxes and supporting small business. And I see that Trudeau has never run a business. He doesn't understand what that means, and he's basically pissing away hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm very unhappy with that. I've told Morneau myself his budget is irresponsible. It's un-Canadian. It's an insult to every taxpayer. And I'm going to do my damnedest to stop him from wasting $113 billion.
Well, you say that. Let me challenge on that. You say that, but he's still riding high in the polls. Canadians knew what he was offering when they voted for him. Well, to some degree. Maybe they didn't think the deficits would be as high as they're actually going to be.
As I recall, it was a $10 billion estimate, then a 30, and then when he finally brought his telephone book out, $113 billion with no answer on when we pay it back. You don't think that's irresponsible? And we're in very early days. I'm going to ask Canadians to only measure 3 things. Very easy to measure this. Number 1, have you had a wage increase in the last 14 years? The answer is no. Is Morneau's budget going to get you one? Not a chance in hell. Number two, is your house going to be worth more 36 months from now? I think no. It's going to stagnate or be worth less. But here's the killer. The people that gave Trudeau that mandate were very hopeful that he would find them a job. If you're a millennial, if you're 25 years old and you're living in your parents' basement and you've got an internship for $8 an hour, will Morneau get you a job? Not a chance in hell. Those are the people that are going to vote for me.
Give me a couple of minutes left. You've been generous with your time, and I thank you for it. What about things like organization? I mean, there are people who are likely to be candidates for the leadership who've been in the party a long time. They've got organizations across the country. And
fair question.
What's the caveat? Like, how do you get around that?
When it's clear,
and you can't just pay for it with your own money, because you can only put in 25 grand of your own, and then you got to raise $1,500 at a time from everybody across the country. How are you going to finance your campaign?
Well, the first challenge you've got is how do you reach people? You know, when you think about a message of being a politician, how do you actually get in their ear in the first place? That's the biggest challenge many of these candidates have. I don't have that problem. I reach 10.2 million people a week. You may not like my message, but you certainly hear me. 2.1 million of them are Canadians. Very few candidates have that opportunity. It took me a decade to get there, and I'm not going anywhere soon. So my ability to organize will be compressed in terms of being successful at it. I can probably raise money very quickly if I wish. Luckily, I have a lot of my own, so to the extent I can use it, I will. And frankly, why should I declare now? Why don't I wait and see the lay of the land, the tonality of this party, the excitement we're going to enjoy on the stage today, hear what others have to think, and think the one thing that I want to be very transparent about, and I've said this to you 3 times, my interests are economic and fiscal policy. I can be extremely effective there. I can make this country competitive, and I think people that spend their money in taxes need respect that we don't give them. I can give it to them.
You said you didn't have to be Prime Minister to get your message across.
No. I may have to get done what I want done, but there are many other positions where I could actually change or be very much part of the decision in how we spend our money, how taxes are spent, what the policies are. I just told you about a decision that has to be reversed. You know, all the kinds of things that are broken here that I know I can fix.
If you didn't become leader of the party, why wouldn't you run as a candidate?
I could also make...
Or you want to waste your time?
No.
It's either a big job or no job.
No, but I could also make one of these people leaders. That's the way I look at it. It may sound arrogant.
Kingmaker.
Absolutely. Apparently, and listen, I'm just reading the same polls that you are, I'm leading in the polls. Oh, golly, what do I do with that?
I guess we'll find out.
Exactly.
Kevin O'Leary, thanks for your time.
Take care, my friend.
Look forward to hearing you this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, potential leadership candidate Kevin O'Leary on our set here this morning here on CPAC as our convention coverage continues.